My name is Robert Clements. I work for the Northern Ireland Housing Executive within part of it which is called the Energy Conservation Unit. We'll go through it quick. Always good to start off with context. We have a heating policy which complements biomass, that's why I'm here. Some of our assumptions before we start. Education of the tenants or householders, our experiences and lessons learned, and a wee quick summary. Context at the moment, the Housing Executive is the Home Energy Conservation Authority. There's 400 of these throughout the UK. Our role is to market and benchmark energy efficiency within dwellings, all tenures, not just social, public as well. We measured with the SAP ratings, which I know some people like or don't like, but it's a simple measurement tool, and we have showed that in the 15, 16 years we have increased the SAP rating of all tenures in Northern Ireland up to about 60, which equates to 2.5 tonnes of CO2. Putting all that aside, which is the CO2 box, which because of climate change, that's why we're all here. Our main issue in Northern Ireland is fuel poverty. Fuel poverty is where a family will spend 10% of their income to pay for their energy bills for that year. Northern Ireland is the highest region in the UK at 42% of all people are in fuel poverty. Because of that, it's a key driver for our sponsoring department, the Department of Social Development, and for our government at Stormont as well. So apart from the CO2, which we will tick that box, fuel poverty is our big driver. And to frame where we put renewables into the whole equation, this thing called the energy hierarchy, where you reduce the demand, you increase the efficiency, in which we talk about stuff like insulation fabric first, and then you adopt and put in the renewables. As far as renewables goes with regard to biomass, biomass is very good at reducing CO2, solar PV isn't so good, but they're all ticking the CO2 box. But that strategically is where we're at. This thing's called the Sutherland Tables. It's an impartial view of all the cost of the heating sources in Northern Ireland, and it's taken on a quarterly index and is pumped out. As you can see, wood pellet is down there with mains gas. And just on mains gas, we do like mains gas, but we only see it as an interim measure before renewables take off. We see it as an interim measure for the next 10 to 20 years, and then hopefully renewables will be the only show in town. But just natural gas is there at the moment for ourselves. As we've seen, we put in oil 15 years ago because people didn't like solid fuel. We're now looking at putting in mains gas or wood pellet. And these are the costings, and this, basically that shows you why. And if you take that back to fuel poverty, that's really our business. Heating objectives within the heating policy, the only thing really worth looking at there is the increase the renewable heat by 5% per year. If the housing executive is 90,000 stock, we replace 5,000 heating systems every year. We want to try and achieve 5%, which is roughly 250. We have got a third of the stock outside the area of mains gas, so roughly 1,500 could be wood pellet, but condenser boilers is also an option, and there's a bit of prejudice against wood pellet at the moment, so the target of 250 is a realistic target, but it's going to be hard to try and achieve. Our policy objectives, as I said, natural gas where it is. We have got natural gas coming into the west. Hopefully it'll come up to the line with the motorway and the rail station, but we'll wait and see. It is apparently a government assertion it is going to come into the west to help, I think, 58,000 people. But as you can see, outside this area, where there's roughly a third, oil condenser or wood pellet is our options. Solid fuel is there only by exception if there's a real issue, and there is real issue fuel poverty, but generally at the moment, 2/3 of people outside it are putting in oil condenser boilers. We want to make wood pellet growing because we've got the mandate to do it from the 1st of April. Before we put in heating systems, we have some assumptions. We talked earlier on about energy first and insulation and fabric first. We make sure there's double glazed, and we make sure there's 270 mm of loft insulation. We make sure there's some form of cavity wall insulation, that the hot water cylinders are insulated, and there's some sort of zoned modern heating system as well. There's no point putting your main gas boiler or your wood pellet boiler in if you're not going to have a modern system. I had a manager one day said, "Why is he using 7 bags of wood pellet every day?" And I says, "Well, turn down your room stat." And he looked at me and said, "What's a room stat?" His system was 30 years old. He put on a brand new wood pellet boiler, but there's nothing else was monitoring that system. So in other words, wood pellet boilers going to an old systems like putting a Ferrari engine into an old 30-year chassis. It just doesn't work. So you must insulate first. Some issues we find, and just two main issues. One is the quality of the wood pellet, and the second is wood pellet and biomass is not the holy grail. You must have energy first. We have a thing that we want everybody to use this AN plus A1 sign on your wood pellet bags. There's three main distributors in Ireland. There's one from Mana, which you'll all know. They will, to be honest, put wood pellet bags anywhere we ask them. But the problem is whenever they go to a shopkeeper and they rock up, within a month the shopkeeper's trying to get a cheaper brand. And if it hasn't got this sign on it, the whole thing will fall to bits, which we'll talk about in a wee minute. But whenever we're putting in wood pellets, we must educate the tenants what product to put in. It's not a multi-fuel stove, it's a wood pellet boiler for a quality grade wood pellet only. We must also say it's not the holy grail. You will have to turn your room stats down, you will have to remember the energy and keep your windows closed and wear a jumper and all that good stuff. Biomass Experiences, we've only put in 53 boilers in total. We really only got that through government or European funding. We did look at district heating. It was 8 years ago, I do appreciate. And because of the housing market was taken off, our central mass was pepper potted, so it just didn't work for us. But we're going to have to look at it again. At the moment, wood pellet is our renewable option for outside mains gas. But the same way that we all put in solar thermal panels 5 years ago, we're not putting in any at the moment. We're looking at solar PV because there's good incentives for it. So the journey of renewables will keep going. At the moment, we're looking at single house wood pellet boilers. 5 years time, we could be looking at district heating. You know, just time will tell. But we're looking at people buying in wood pellet bags, roughly costing about £15 a shot. Here's some pictures. Yeah, straightforward wood pellet boilers. Lessons learned: you must educate the tenants. It's not like oil. It's like going back to coal. You have to feed it and you have to clean it. And as long as the tenants will sign up to that, it will work. So it's a lot more difficult than oil. You must explain to them there's a bit more work on it. But again, they will save a third of their costs, which feeds into fuel poverty. The only downside is it doesn't work for the elderly very well, because they don't want to hump a bag the same size as a salt bag. The supply chain, we think in the north isn't too bad. The suppliers like Balcast will deliver to small shops if there's a central mass of about half a dozen people in that area. And we tell people that you should be fit to drive about 10 miles to go and buy your wood pellet bags. Challenges for ourselves: the service is a wee bit dear, but that's just what the contractors like to charge you. We've had a few calls. It's all been about, again, people putting in their own sort of pellets. With a village shop closed, it's just a supply chain issue.